I'm going to show you how to do a knit stitch, which is the most basic stitch with knitting. What it'll show you is how to hold your needles and how to hold your yarn and how those things all come together. But until you're doing it, it's kind of difficult to really see how it all goes together. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to insert, I've got my cast on row of 10 in my left hand on my left needle. I'm going to pop my right needle. It's going to go into that first cast on stitch and underneath the hook. So it's crossed over, underneath my needle rather. So it's crossed over, but going through that cast on stitch. And then I need to take my yarn. I'm going to wrap it around my finger. And what we need to do is bring that around the back of the back needle between both of those needles. So what I now can do is take the back needle, draw it through, and it needs to pick up that stitch that I've just looped around. So that what I can then do is pull the whole lot of that first cast on stitch off my needle, and what I've got left is a loop, and it's transferred it from the left needle to the right needle and made a knit stitch. I mean, it sounds complicated, but actually it's quite simple when you get going. So I'm going to show you again. The right needle is going to go in from the front, cross the left needle so it sits at the back, and that cast on stitch is going around them both. And I can bring my yarn with my right hand around the tip of my right needle. And then what I'm going to do is draw that through, and with the tip of that needle, grab that yarn and pull it up, and then pull that cast on stitch off, and I've knitted a new stitch and it's transferred it to the right. So you see we're moving everything from the left onto the right, and as we do that we're knitting and creating stitches as we go. So let's do it again. We're going in from the front, pushing it through that cast on stitch so it crosses to the back of the left needle. You'll see this is where I'm transferring it and I'm holding everything with my left hand, and this yarn is coming with my right hand around the back, crossing over, sitting between those two needles. I'm going to draw that back needle through, pull up that stitch and put it off the tip of my needle like that. So you see, it sounds complicated, but it doesn't look as bad as it sounds, I think is always the key. So we'll do it again. We're going to pop the tip in from the front, cross it to the back, going through that loop, bring that yarn around so it sits between both of those needles, bring that down, catch and draw up that loop there, and we're going to push them both, push that back loop off, and you'll see what we're starting to do. We've got just a single little row here. If we look at where we cast on this side we've got like a stripe. That's showing the ones we've got on this side. If we look at this side, we've got a stripe with a loop to the top of it. That is where you have knitted a stitch. So as we're transferring them over, we've knitted that stitch and we're creating our work. So we're going to go back in, the tip of the needle is going in there, so it's to the back of that top needle. We're bringing this yarn, it's got to come around the back for a knitted stitch. So it's always around the back and across between those two. And then that back needle can come through, pick up that stitch, draw it all off the end. And this is what just takes a little bit of getting used to. You get more dexterous as you do it, and you become more confident. So once we've inserted that in there, that yarn is coming around, that tip is going to come down and catch that yarn we've drawn around and pull that whole stitch right off that needle. So what we've done is we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's really nice and easy to count our stitches. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and that very first slip stitch that we used, slip knot rather, is going to become a stitch as well. So we're going to go in from the front, through so it crosses to the back, so that whole stitch is around, that yarn's coming round the back, that needle's coming down, picking up that loop, and it's coming off the needle. So 3 more to go. And you'll see my left hand's taking both those needles there. I'm transferring it to my right once I've brought my yarn over, and then I can take it off the top there, and I've got one in each hand, and this yarn is still sitting in the right hand side. So we're going to go in, around that needle from back to front. That tip is going to come down and catch that yarn and pull it up and through. So now we're going to do our very last one. So that's going into that slip knot, around that hook, just like we did, around that needle. We're going to pull that up and through and off our needle there. And we've knitted a whole row of stitches.